flashing light towards the
There
camera.
we go. We are on. We are live now.
Flashing light.
And this part of the segment is. Oh, hi, Graham. We are. Is Graham joined? No, he just said, "Okay, not joined us." Yeah, I thought people were joining us. So we're just going to give it a minute. Are you frozen? Oh no, you're not frozen. Okay, you're just.
No, I'm not.
You're just still. So we're going to just give it a few moments and have people in. So we'll just do our little idle chit chat thing. But you were saying about the hand stuck, about getting the hand stuck,
Yes.
that it feels like you're using your imagination. And it should feel that way because you are using your imagination, right? And we want people to use their imagination. But then when it gets to the point where the imagination takes over and becomes the reality, then that's when you achieve somnambulism. And then from somnambulism, you can deepen the trance and take them into profound somnambulism.
That's right. Yes. I just ask my clients to just imagine their hands are stuck. Then it puts the onus on them to make it happen. And
That's
so
right.
they have to imagine the hands are stuck. And while they're imagining the hands are stuck, they can't be using their mind to do all the kinds of other stuff. They
Right.
can't be analytical.
It puts the focus right there and it gives
Yes.
them the fascination. And then when you achieve fascination, right, then you can achieve the somnambulistic reality that you're trying to get out of the person, right?
Yes, indeed. And I love doing it to myself, because if I can say to myself, my hands are stuck together, as long as I'm imagining my hands are stuck
Right.
together, and I've done that now in moments, and I'm imagining my hands are stuck together, and as long as I keep imagining my hands, and if you imagine your hands are stuck together, Stephanie, as long as you're imagining that, you can't pull your hands apart as long as you keep that in your imagination, because before you can pull them apart, you have to remove that from your imagination, can't you? Because you can't.
Yeah, and now they are really feeling really stuck now.
Because in the same way, you can't have conflicting thoughts in your mind. You can't have fear and happiness at the same time in your mind. Try and have fear and happiness at the same time. You can't do it, can you?
No.
Because they're conflicting.
Right.
You have to remove the happiness to put the fear in, don't you?
Correct. Yes.
So I'm still imagining that my hands are stuck together. And
Me too. In fact, I think my hands are really stuck together now.
And yeah,
I was like, I got to move that mouse.
And I was reading the other day. You show me a man. You show me a man who's got his feet firmly on the ground, and I'll show you a man who can't take his pants off.
Right.
It's a similar thing, isn't it?
I love that. Okay, now unstick me so I can move my mouse.
Your part now.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, my finger click is. I can't click my fingers
worked.
to save my life.
That worked. Welcome, everybody. We've got people joining us now. There's about 7 people viewing at the moment. And welcome, everybody. Let's see, Sylvia
Fernandez.
Welcome, and
Sylvia she's obviously
Fernandez.
into woo-woo, and I'm very happy to hear that.
Woo-woo, yes. We're going to get to woo-woo in just in as quickly as we can, because I love woo-woo.
I'm on a campaign to get as much woo-woo into the world of the mind and hypnosis as I can, which is
awesome.
Why I've added that to the name of my hypnosis group. Bill, good to have you join us.
Bill, good to have you, and Roselli and Tiffany Mandanda. Hey, Tiffany, what's up, girl?
Bill suggesting we add a helium balloon to somebody's wrist with and that tell them the number of balloons doubles with each breath. Yeah, that's a useful one, Bill. Yeah, and that can have devastating consequences when they get to 30,000 feet. Their eyes pop out.
I like your sense of humor. So, welcome so much to the. I don't want to call it a show. It's just a chat between colleagues and you guys at home can just sort of eavesdrop in on our conversation, or you can interact. Please interact with us. And we're just going to have a friendly chat to get to know each other today. So my guest today is Keithanthony Taylor. Do people call you Keith Anthony, or do they call you Keith, or how do you want to be referred to?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
I like Keithanthony, but if it's too much to type, then Keith is fine. Or some people type K-A.
K-A, okay.
Because when you type whatever's quickest and easiest, but face to face, I like to be called Keithanthony, because I find that those who respect me call me Keithanthony, and that's good, because it's like people who have names like Stephanie. It's not too much to say Stephanie, is it?
No.
But when somebody calls you Steph, that can sound like an insult, can't it?
It sort of depends on who's calling me Steph. It could also sound very endearing to me as well. Mm-hmm. But sometimes people have called me Steph, and I'm kind of like, we're not at the level of Steph yet. Yes. We're still at Stephanie. We're still at the more formal level. Yes.
And you grab them by the shoulders and say, how does this kick in the nuts feel?
Keithanthony and I have only known each other for a few weeks now. We've been getting to know each other online, and somebody who follows me added me to your groups. They said, you would really love Keithanthony. He's in alignment with a lot of what you're teaching, or how some of your belief systems align with. And so I joined your group, and you accepted me graciously, and we've gotten to know a little bit about each other, but I really don't know a whole lot about you. So if you want to take some time now, just give me and the audience, or I'm going to call them the audience, that sounds too formal, our friends, a little bit about your background. How far back? Good to have you join us. Just whatever you want to say, but to introduce yourself and just to get us to help us get to know you a little better.
Well, I'm a bit of a criminal, because I had my first hypnosis book when I was a child. I had to sneak into the adult library to get it, because I tried to get it in the kids' library, and they wouldn't let me have it. They said I wasn't grown up enough, so I had to sneak into.
So you had to steal it.
And steal it, because they wouldn't let me book it out. So I stole it, read it, and unfortunately, it taught me nothing about how to do hypnosis. It talked around hypnosis a lot, and and eventually I took it back to the library and put it back in there. And then I didn't read any more about hypnosis, because it was very hard. It was very hard to get hypnosis books in my family, but let's not go into my family at all. Mm-hmm. Let's not talk about my family and what happened there. But I didn't learn any more about hypnosis.
Well, how old were you when you stole this book and then returned it?
I was about, must have been maybe 12, 13.
And what made you interested in wanting to check out, or get that book to begin with? Like, what was that thought that was running through your mind that you wanted? Like, what was the catalyst that made you interested in even wanting to
I'd seen hypnosis on television.
Okay.
In those days, there was a lot of variety shows on TV, and I saw a hypnotist on TV, and I thought, that looks interesting. Well, I actually saw it was stage hypnosis, and I actually thought that looks a bit silly, and I thought, is it real? And I thought, I need to know about the mind to find out if it was real. So I thought, let's buy a book on hypnosis and find out what he's really doing.
Okay.
So that was my thinking there.
So jump forward to years later, what got you back interested into hypnosis?
And years later, I got interested in hypnosis because I had a really bad accident back in 1978 when I was hit by a drunken driver and found myself in hospital, laying on my back, and I had a coma. And I woke up from the coma, paralyzed. They said, Mr. Taylor, you've been in a very bad accident. You've been in a coma for a while. And that's the good news. The bad news is, didn't quite put it in this funny way, but That's my funny spin on it, because I'm apparently a bit of a comedian. And you're paralyzed and permanently. And I had to learn how to speak.
Wow. So how did that feel when you woke up and they said you're permanently paralyzed?
Well, it didn't feel too good, because I was telling you earlier on about when I changed seats.
Right.
From a cloth back to this plastic back. This plastic back felt very cold, and I didn't like it, because that bed felt just like that, because it felt like I was part of the bed. It felt very cold, and I couldn't move.
Interesting.
And it felt like I was furniture. It felt like I was a piece of the bed, and I couldn't move myself from it. It was like I was welded to the bed.
Interesting.
It was like I was a
and
piece
scary,
of the bed.
right?
And when I say it felt like I was a piece of the bed, I use the word feel loosely, because I couldn't really feel anything. I was all up here. Hi, Nitin. Good to have you join us. I was all up here. There was nothing down here. So I use the word feeling loosely. It was not a nice feeling, and I didn't want to be there for very long.
Got it.
They said, well, this is the way it is for you, Mr. Taylor. And when I learned how to speak again, which I had to teach myself, I said, no, I'm not paralyzed. So they gave me counseling. They gave me psychiatry, and they gave me a lot of threats as well. I was threatened with a lobotomy, and they gave me.
What year was this?
1978.
Wow, and they were still using lobotomies back in 1970.
Oh, yes.
They had been moved beyond that.
Today, let me tell you, they're still doing it today.
Do they? I thought that was like outlawed or something.
Well, there's lots of things outlawed that they still do. And they gave me electroconvulsive therapy as well. So picture this. I'm within a couple of weeks of a traumatic brain injury I'm still recovering from, and they're giving me electroconvulsive therapy to help me as a punishment, because I was an unruly patient. I wouldn't accept their diagnosis that I was going to be, do I look paralyzed? That I was permanently paralyzed. And this was the treatment they're giving me in a British hospital.
Goodness.
They tortured me in the hospital. And I'm smiling, by the way, because I don't want to be giving you any idea that I'm giving you a hard luck story, because it's a good luck story. Because what it's taught me about life and about the mind and what's going on inside our hospitals is an education that I couldn't have got anywhere else. And this is why I'm going to say it. This is why I'm such a good therapist. This is why I can get down underneath the problems of others.
Absolutely, because you can definitely empathize with their pain, right? You know what they're going through, and so you can be more patient with them. Yeah,
indeed. So I'm there on the level with the trauma and the PTS, and I won't say D because it's not a disorder.
Right.
To quote to Carl Smith, there's no D in PTSD. Product placement, by the way, it's on the shelf behind me. You might just about be able to see it there. Where is it? There it is.
Yeah. I think I have that.
I shouldn't have done that because the camera's falling down now.
So,
hello, Carl, if you're listening.
Well, let's see. ECT was rough those days.
It's still being used today on non-consenting patients.
On non-consenting patients, that's crazy.
Yes. And I
don't know, how do they get away with that?
Because they can. It's simple as that. Because they're the people that are doing it are weird. They're power crazy people who do it because they can. They do it, in my view, for, I'll use the mild version of what I'm about to say. They do it for entertainment value.
Wow,
I could say something. I could say something much stronger than that.
That's crazy.
But these are perverted people. They do it for entertainment value.
Wow. Goodness.
There is no sign.
When your caretakers have mental disorders, then we've got a problem.
Yes. Well, I think that the staff in psychiatric hospitals are the ones with the mental disorder.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So I've recently,
in a lot of cases,
I've recently managed to get somebody out of a mental hospital who was in there for 11 years. And I just went in and I saw her a few times in the hospital, and I had to give her counselling to help her to overcome the trauma caused by the staff. And I had to fight to get her out of there. She should not have been in there.
Wow.
Forcibly medicated for 11 years. And she's out now in society. She should never have been in there. And the tragedy is that most of the people in there should not be in there.
Yeah. That's from what I've heard that before, and I think it is all over the place. It's not just in the UK, it's in America too, not just in the UK.
It's a money tree. It's a money tree.
Yeah,
and I know that in America they are medicating children as young as 3 years old for psychiatric disorders. Aren't they?
So this experience, though, this led you, the gold lining in the cloud, or the silver lining in the cloud. This is what sort of got you on the path to hypnosis, hypnotherapy.
Yes, it did eventually.
So you were doing self-hypnosis, or did you go see a hypnotherapist, or what happened there?
Well, I was, to get me off my hospital bed, I was using self-hypnosis. I didn't know it was self-hypnosis. Nobody taught me it. But I just focused my mind on doing the impossible, or they said it was impossible, and got me off there. I just decided somehow, some way, someday I would overcome this. And my face was, in effect, against the wall, because there was no way to do it. I didn't know how to do it. But I just looked around me at the people who were walking around, and it looked cool walking. So I watched the way they were walking. I had to start by teaching myself how to talk. So I listened to the way they were talking, and I had to connect my mind to this.
Gotcha.
They weren't helping me. As far as they were concerned, I was a cabbage.
So you were figuring this out all on your own.
Yes.
And it's so amazing how powerful the brain really is. And is this the time when you had the near-death experience, the NDE?
That was when I was in coma.
Or was that a different time?
Well, that's when the accident happened.
Right, but it was that, but the same time period, though. Okay, not like there was a later accident or something, but during this time when you had this.
That was when the accident physically happened. When I was in coma.
When you were in a coma, you had a near-death experience, and I'm actually really fascinated by near-death experience in people who have gone through that. And I've had some esoteric experiences, not having died that I know of,
Would you like to tell us about those?
I would like to tell you about mine, but I would like to hear about you first, since I'm interviewing you. But I guess it's not really an interview. It really just is talking between friends. So I don't mind telling you about mine. But who wants to go first? You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Why don't you go first? You piqued my interest now.
Okay. So
have you been doing voodoo or black magic?
No,
what have you been doing?
I hadn't been doing voodoo. Actually, I've had several different experiences happen to me in my life. But first of all, I'm a miracle baby. I'm a miracle child. I shouldn't have even been born. I agree. No, but what happened, I'll tell you this story real quick, and then I'll tell you some experiences that I've had. But when my mother was 12 weeks pregnant with me, her water broke. And I should have been miscarried. All right. I think like 99% of miscarriages happen during that time. And if you don't miscarry, because she was still in her first trimester, if you don't miscarry and you carry the baby to term, then the baby usually is going to have some kind of mental and physical deformity. severe mental and physical deformities. So what happened is she didn't miscarry.
You're a miracle.
Obviously. And she was paired with another. I'm a total miracle. When the water drained out, there was just there was like half an inch of water of placenta fluid. And I was just laying there like that. Like just because, you know, we have amphibian lungs when we're in the womb. Yes. So I'm just breathing the water, you know, just the tiniest bit of water. Right. And so, but this could have also really, this could have ended up killing her as well. And so she had to take her temperature every single day, every single morning. She'd have to wake up, take her temperature, and call it into the doctor. If her temperature raised 1 degree, then they were going to abort me in order to save her life. She called it in every morning, but she kept saying, no, she's fine. This baby's going to be fine. I feel it. I know it. They paired her with another woman who was going through the same thing, whose water had broken later in her trimester, so that they could, you know, go through this together, be a support system for each other. And unfortunately, that woman's baby was born deformed. When I was born, I came out perfect, not perfect, but basically a miracle. The only thing that was wrong with me is my vision, which I try to get stylish glasses, but I have very severe farsightedness with I had zero depth perception. My mind had to create depth, but because my eyes weren't seeing depth, and I was in bifocals at a very young age, and I have contacts too, but they just kind of they bother me. So I'm wearing my glasses more and more as I get. Actually, once I reached 40. For whatever reason, I stopped being able to read with just my contacts. And so it's like, well, I'm not going to have contacts and glasses. I'll just do one or the other. So just switched over to my glasses. All right. Then I had all kinds of, I've always been sort of a spiritual kid, a spiritual person. I had some experiences as a kid that I won't go into detail on that now, but when I got in, this is the story that everybody wants to hear. So I'll jump forward to this one. Is when I was in university age, in my early 20s, and I was in my bedroom, and I was just sitting on my bed, and the lights were on. I was at home. I don't remember. I guess it was summer or something. I was at home, and not at university. And all of a sudden, I just felt this presence in my bedroom. I couldn't see, you know how when somebody walks into your room, if it's dark, but they walk in, maybe you can't see them, but you can feel them and you know that they're there. That's how strong of a presence I felt. So I knew somebody was in my room, but I couldn't, the lights were on and I couldn't see them. And then I knew who it was. It came to me. And what came to me was that Jesus was in my room. And whoever you think Jesus to be, at that time, my perception has changed over the years of who I think Jesus is. But, at that time, I was Catholic, and so I had some, preconceived ideas of who I thought Jesus was. The brown hair. What I saw was blue eyes, even though I guess he was. I'm sure he was olive skinned and Jewish, and probably had more dark eyes and darker hair. But what I saw in my vision was he was wearing a white tunic, and he had long brown hair, and he had blue eyes. But what was interesting was I felt his presence in my room first. I thought he was on the other side of the room, standing next to the door. And I said, Jesus, I know it's you. Show yourself to me. As soon as I said, show yourself to me. Now, am I having a hypnotic hallucination, or am I having something spiritual go on? I don't know. But what happens next is my little screen is falling. Hang on. So what happens next is he appears, but when he appears, he's not standing by the door. He is sitting next to me on my bed. That's what I didn't expect. And he was sitting right next to me on my bed, and it scared me because I wasn't expecting him to be there. I thought he was going to be over by the door. As soon as he appeared, he just kind of looked at me. He wasn't smiling or anything. I don't know why he wasn't smiling. It wasn't a scary look. He just wasn't smiling. And then as soon as I saw that, I felt my spirit, my soul, or something rushing through this tunnel, like very quickly rushing through a tunnel. And I was going towards that light. But I was in perfect health. I was very healthy. I had no, I didn't know, I thought I was dying because I was rushing through that tunnel. I had heard about the tunnel, I guess. But it scared me and my heart started racing. And as soon as I felt like utterly scared, it was like I slammed back into my body. And when I slammed back into my body, he disappeared. Okay. So now that could have been a hypnotic hallucination, whatever. Okay. Because I didn't know anything about hallucination. I mean, about hypnotic hallucinations at that time. But what was so kind of eerie is that a week later, I'm watching television and I'm watching like this televangelist, like, those American Benny Hill or somebody. And it was just sort of on the background and I wasn't even really watching it. I just hadn't changed the channel yet. But he had a guest on the show, and it was a middle-aged man. And he told the same exact story that I just told you. The whole thing about he felt that there was a presence in the room. He knew it was Jesus. He said, "Show yourself to me." Jesus appeared closer to him than he thought. Mm-hmm. He rushed through this tunnel towards this bright light. He got scared. He got slammed back into his body. It was like exactly word for word, verbatim what happened to me, what happened to him. And it completely amazed me. And I couldn't really share this with anybody. I didn't know how to, like, who's going to believe this. So then a week after that, I go to, I'm a part of this Bible study or something like that. And I go to the deacon's house and I'm sitting on the couch with it. Everybody else had left and it was late at night, and I'm sitting on the couch and I'm talking to the deacon and his wife. And I start to tell them the same exact story, word for word, but I just told you. And the whole time I'm talking, they're looking at each other like they're, like they're looking at each other and they're making weird faces. And I don't know why they're looking at each other. I finished the story and they said, "That's so amazing that you just said that, because sitting exactly where you're sitting right now, we had a visitor here last night who told us that happened to him. That same exact story happened to him." And so now that makes me go like, okay, this wasn't a hallucination. There's definitely something more going on here. There's something universal going on. But then after that, I never heard anyone else that had that same story. Mm-hmm. So it was just in that period of time, and it was just me and whatever, these other guys who I've never met, and just weird. So so explain that to me, Keithanthony. What happened there? Who was that? What happened?
Well, I'm not sure that there are two ways to explain this, and you may not like one of them.
Okay, that's okay. I love getting people's opinions on that.
Well, the first way is that it was Jesus.
Yeah.
Which is what I would like for it to have been. Or possibly there are three ways. The first way is that it was a spiritual experience and it was Jesus. The second way is that you were potentially hallucinating, and that's okay, and that's still wonderful, because the mind has some mysterious ways of working.
Totally.
And that's okay. And a third way that aligns with current technology that's available is that it is what is called the voice of God, and that's technology that is military technology, and has been used in Iraq to make combatants put down their weapons and come out terrified. That is actual technology.
So like
microwave
subliminal
technology.
messaging going through the television or something like that. Is that what you're talking about? Or how would I have gotten that messaging?
No, I'm not saying you did it. I'm saying that it's technology that's being deployed, particularly in America, using cell towers and Gwen towers and that kind of thing. And it's been used and tested in Iraq.
Okay.
I don't know which of them it was.
Yeah, and this was.
I hope that you haven't been targeted like that.
Oh yeah, I don't know why anybody would want to target me, but this was at a time before.
Not necessarily targeting you specifically.
Oh, okay, just like that.
But maybe it's been happening to a whole group of people, which is why more than one person's reported the same thing. But I have no way of knowing which it was, and
Right.
I have no reason to suppose that it wasn't genuinely Jesus who came to see you, because I've seen him myself.
Right.
But
and also just sort of like going through the tunnel part and feeling as if my soul were moving through a tunnel. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I could understand the hallucination part, but the moving through the tunnel, which has happened to me on more than one occasion, but not with the apparition, I'll call it. Not with a spiritual apparition attached to it, as that happened that time. But there have been other times. I've had sleep paralysis as a child, so this could have also been linked to sleep paralysis, even though...
How long ago was it that you had this experience?
Probably 1994, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. Oh, a long time ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was really before a lot of cell towers and all. I mean, cell phones were just
your experience was probably a visitation from Jesus then.
Right. And so, what's interesting is I think it was, but I don't know because it hasn't happened since. And I just think it's fascinating that it happened to three of us, at least, maybe more. So I don't know what that was, but let's talk about you. Let's talk about your near-death experience, because you actually died and came back, didn't you?
Well, whether or not I physically died, I'm not sure, but I certainly did get a close encounter with God and Jesus, and that's I say definite, but I follow all the classic traits of people who've had near-death experiences, and I've been able to examine it for 40 years, and I didn't talk about it for the first 37 years until I made a YouTube video about it, because a lot of people kept asking me about it, and it's a lot of writing to do, so I turned on my camera and did a YouTube video instead and put it up on YouTube for the first time. But I had an accident in 1978 when I was riding a motorcycle. I was on pillion back in my rough biker days when I used to ride with Hell's Angels, and you can't believe it to look at me, can you? Maybe the beard gives away a little bit. And I was on the pillion of a guy called Animal. Is that a good Hell's Angel name? His name was Animal.
That's a great Hell's Angel's name.
and if I was standing behind him, you wouldn't be able to see me, because he was a mountain of a man and probably weighed about 300 pounds. And we were driving along the road, and we were coming up to a bend in the road where there was a pub on the left, and somebody drove out of that pub in their car up the road, up the wrong side of the road, straight at us. And we wound up crashing. the guy, the guy driving the bike, he took his hands off the handlebars and did this, and I'm thinking, what's going on? Because you could have driven around the right hand side or the left hand side of that car, but no, he just chickened out and decided we're going to die. And I'm on the back trying to steer the bike around the car from the back, you know.
It's amazing that you even remember that part of it.
And what that's the only bit I can remember clearly. Okay. But as much as I tried to steer around the car from the back, because he weighed 300 pounds, he was having none of it. And so we hit, and I did the best I could because I was going through life just drifting, but all of a sudden life became very important to me when I could see it was about to end.
Yeah, it tends to do that to people during those moments.
And but reached a point where nobody died in the accident, Nitin, and the chap who was riding on the front, because he had so much bulk, he didn't even get injured at all. But he was like a launch pad for me, because I took all the impact from the back.
Wow.
And I was catapulted over him. And from the reports I get, the car was off the ground with the motorcycle underneath the car. All four wheels of the car were off the ground. But what I can remember is that I reached a point where I was airborne, and I'd done all I could do, and I just let go and said, this is it. And I just submitted myself to whatever was going to happen. And in that moment, I'm only supposing this is what happened. In that moment, my spirit separated from my physical body. So and then.
Do you remember that part? Did you feel that happening?
It's difficult to describe what I felt, because you're in how can I describe it? You're in an altered state. You're into interdimensional travel. Which, how can you describe that? You know,
True.
How do you describe a thing like that? And I was transported from my body to another place.
But I was just wondering if you went through a tunnel, like how some people say that there's a tunnel
I did go through a tunnel,
hallway,
yes,
okay.
I went through a tunnel, and then I became aware of guides telling me to go along the tunnel, and they were telling me, don't,
like spirit guides, angels, like what kind of guides are we talking about?
There were, it's hard to describe. I can't remember. It was like voices, and I had an awareness.
Okay, so you had like an awareness. You could hear voices, but you're not actually. But are you seeing figures?
It was a long time ago, 40 years.
Oh, okay.
And when I came to, I had a traumatic brain injury because I'd been in a coma. And
gotcha.
And Nitin, you had a motorcycle accident as well, yeah. And I also had, when I came to, I went about, reports vary, but I'm told that I flew as much as 100 meters. But reports vary. People do exaggerate, but I went.
Yeah, that's a long way.
We were doing 80 miles an hour before the impact. The vehicle coming towards us was maybe doing 40, and if you add to it and if you know anything about science and the principle of moments, and then I could have been in the air doing maybe 150 miles an hour. It's hard to say. But anyway, when I came to, the doctors, because I had very clear memories when I came to, and I was talking about my near-death experience, and the doctors threatened me. They said they were going to give me a lobotomy if I didn't stop talking my nonsense about God and angels and things. And
I would imagine that they probably.
They told me to forget it all. They told me to forget it all, as I was highly medicated. I was in a highly suggestive state, and they were telling me to forget everything. So a lot of what I can remember was crystal clear in my memory at the time. I forgot, which is what they were telling me to do.
So you had these guides, right, who were guiding you through this tunnel or someplace. Do you go through a gate? Do you go into a bright light? Like, what's the next step after that? Or just like a heaven-like place? Or
they were telling me to go along this tunnel, telling me not to deviate. But while I was going along the tunnel, I was aware that to the sides was a darkness. And I'm looking at the darkness on the left and right of the screen here, which is black. And it was more black than black. It was an abyss. It was completely void. It was it was in limbo. But I was aware that there were voices calling to me from within this darkness, and I was being warned not to go in there.
Interesting.
But I felt that I wanted to, because there was these voices of anguish calling to me for help, and I really felt that I wanted to go in to help, but I didn't know who those voices were. Stay out of the
darkness. Yeah.
I didn't know whether they were good or possibly bad people who'd gone into hell, or what they were. But and I've been helping people ever since. But I went towards the light in the end and got through to the other end.
Okay.
Into this place we call heaven.
What was that like for you? What is heaven like to Keithanthony Taylor?
It was a weird place, I tell you. It was very kooky up there. Lots of strange stuff happened. And I've tried to quantify over the years. Is this an hour interview, by the way? Because I'm seeing there's only 15 minutes left.
Yeah, but we can go over. I'm good if you're good.
No, I'm okay.
Okay, we'll just keep. I spent 2 hours with Jonathan Chase, so if we go over, we go over. No big deal. Okay. We're just chatting. If you have to go, just let me know.
No, I'm fine with time.
Okay.
But yeah, the first thing that looking back over the years is that and time is very important. But when you speak to anyone who's had a near-death experience, assuming they've had a genuine near-death experience, they'll tell you that they have very great difficulty quantifying time when they had their near-death experience, because time is a construct.
That's right.
And when you're having your near-death experience, time isn't a factor. So we find very difficult to describe what happened, because it all happened in an instant, all at the same time.
Yeah, because time isn't real anyway. It's just made up.
So it's just difficult for me to tell you what happened when.
Oh, that's okay. I don't need a timeline, but just what happened next. We'll just say that. What happened next?
One of the things that happened is that I had a life review. So I found myself in this room, and one of the things that I always remember is that I saw things in ways that still don't make any sense to me today, but they make more sense to me because I'm a hypnotist.
Okay.
But I found myself in a room that had a white ceiling and had walls that were white halfway down, but halfway up they were wood panelled, and I thought to myself that what's this all about? Because I'm obviously in a thank you, Nitsa, for that, the old non-existent fourth dimension of time he's talking about. Yes, and I was in a white ceilinged, half white walled, wood panelled room, like a courtroom, and I'm thinking. I was thinking logically while I was in there. I'm thinking, this is a spiritual place I'm in. Why has it got wood up here? What's that all about?
Interesting, like a courtroom, like you're going to be judged or something.
Yes, well, in fact, I was judged while I was in there, because I was shown a large, heavily bound book, not unlike a really big Bible, with ancient pages.
The Book of Life.
It's a life review, actually.
Like the Akashic Records or something similar to that?
Something like that. and it was on a lectern, like about my height, I suppose. And the thing was, the top of the lectern where the book was on a white fluted stone pillar with a book on top, which was the book of my life, everything I've ever done. But I didn't read the book. I was shown it in movie format, if you like. So I was able to see everything I'd ever done and everything I ever would do. And time.
So you saw this interview.
Sorry?
I'm just kidding.
Yes,
so you saw this interview.
Probably I did.
You knew that we were going to do this today.
Yes, and I saw everything that I'd ever done and ever will do, and so I was. But you've got to go, Nitin. Thanks for coming, Nitin. Sorry,
thank
can't
you.
see
Thanks,
the end,
Larry.
but there will be a recorded version, I think, won't there?
Yeah, you can go back and watch the replay. He was just saying that. And Keithanthony is seeing comments flash up on his screen and then fade away. So if he stops talking, it's because he's reading a comment. Yes. That's just the way this program works. But bye. We'll see you later on the replay. Cool. But let's you and I continue.
But with the life review, and this is in common with most everybody who's had a near-death experience. You see everything from that you've ever done from your own point of view, but you also see it from the point of view of everybody you've ever reacted with. So if you've ever been really good to somebody, you see how they felt, and you feel the love that they felt when you've been good.
And so you're actually feeling their emotions.
That's right.
People that you interacted with, you feel how feel how they felt, how you made them feel. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct. So if you've been bad to them, if you've upset them, or you've hurt them, or you've punched them in the mouth, I've never done that. But if you have done, then you feel what they felt. So you know what you've done to other people. So you are, when you're getting this life review, you are your own judge and jury. You know the effect that you've had on everybody.
Right. I think that's fascinating to me. And I've heard that before, that you are your own judge. You don't have to worry about God judging you. You're going to judge yourself.
Yes, you're going to feel it. You're going to be on the receiving end of everything you've ever done to anybody.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that before.
If you were Adolf Hitler going through this, you feel the heat of the fire.
For a lot of people, I would imagine.
In those furnaces that they were put through.
Yeah. I imagine he would have to fill every soul that he affected. That's
right. And you'd be in the gas chamber with them when they died. And that would be horrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and it would be such a profound experience, and I could see how, when you came to from that later on, how that could really color the way you live your life from that point forward.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. I hope I haven't been too bad a person.
So you do that. And you know what's fascinating to me too is I'm fascinated by near-death experiences, and I always ask people to tell me about theirs, because there's a lot of similarities, and then there's also some differences. So, you were raised in a Christian background, and right?
I think you said I wasn't. No,
you weren't. I thought you weren't.
No, my parents weren't Christian. They sent me to Sunday school on weekends to get rid of me.
Okay, but you learned about Christian teachings, though, at a young age.
Yes, we did that at school.
What I hear is that if you, whatever is sort of in your psyche, if you believe, if you have a Christian religion, or maybe you're Muslim or Buddhist or Jewish or something, whatever your idea, or even maybe you're atheist, even whatever your idea is, when you go to heaven, it's going to be your version of God, your version. And if that's Jesus is going to show up for you, right? Or if you're expecting to see the Buddha will show up, or whatever masters from the religion or the faith that you believe in will show up and help you on your journey, which I think is very fascinating.
Yes, it was.
I can read your mind. I'm psychic.
Yeah. Well, what I noticed was while I was up there, Rabbit is up there, wherever that was. Everything that I saw was shown to me in metaphors to help me understand what was going on. So the wood panel room was like a courtroom, because that is what we're taught down here, isn't it? We see people going into courtrooms and that kind of thing.
And I guess it would need to make sense to you on some level what you're experiencing.
Yes, and so that was shown to me on a timeline, but there is no time up there, because it's a construct that we only have here on the earth, and the earth is apparently the only place in the cosmos where we have this construct of time, which is why we see, when we see them, we see UFOs appearing and disappearing all the time, because they have to interact with this construct that we have here of time. So people, or I say people, ETs using UFOs can travel anywhere they want to in an instant, because they don't have to put up with this thing that we've invented down here called time. So they blink in and blink out whenever they want to, wherever they want to.
I've heard that before too. And some of this information that I've heard about these like extraterrestrials, I've read a lot of Dolores Cannon's work, and where she's put people into the quantum hypnosis. And
I do that kind of hypnosis, because people started coming to me and saying that they wanted Dolores Cannon sessions, and I've never been trained by her.
The QHHT.
I said, okay, let's just do it then. So it's really easy to do.
Absolutely, yeah. And then she does the past life regressions, but then she can get the subconscious dialogue. Same with I've got my own protocol called the profound somnambulism protocol, where we do the same thing, that I don't take them into a past life, but I do get the voice of the subconscious, or the voice of the higher self, or the collective unconsciousness.
That's what I do.
Do you really? Okay, I guess that's why we got connected together, because somebody said that you did similar work to me, and maybe that's why.
I just go straight into higher consciousness.
I do too. I don't do any of the past life stuff. I just go straight into dialogue.
Go straight for it, which is what I do. Yeah, and that works, and you get some very interesting conversations going.
Absolutely.
And the thing I've noticed that's extraordinary is that when I get to the higher consciousness, the higher consciousness that I talk to in different people, I can't help but feeling it's the same consciousness that I'm talking to.
Well, it's the same collective, I think, that we're talking to. I know what you're, and I know what you mean, and which also, if the person's concept of God will come through and talk sometimes. Have you had that happen as well? I've had, I'm going to say God or a source energy, but a hierarchy come through and talk. And the hierarchy depends on the person's belief system as who comes through. And it's not to discount that that's anything that's not spiritual, but that is what's represented in the client's mind. And that's something that they can understand. And so they're translating it in that way.
Yes.
Have you had that experience?
Well, the people that I've done it with haven't had any, or they've told me they didn't believe in God. The ones that I've done it with didn't believe in God at all. One of them was an American, I can't say who, but was an American circuit court judge, so I had to be really careful. Yeah. And I had a joke with him before we started. I said, if you suspect I'm leading you anyway, I want you to tell me. He said, I will, sir. I will.
Good. That's great.
And he put somebody down for a life sentence just before we had our session.
Oh, goodness. Did you, so you just, you didn't do past life with him. You just talked directly to the higher self, or
we didn't do past life. No.
Okay.
We went straight to talking to the higher consciousness.
Okay.
And that worked out well for him.
Okay, great.
He was quite impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and it was interesting when we were doing that when I've done that, when we're talking to the higher consciousness, we get the thing I found interesting, that when I'm talking to the higher consciousness is that it's evident to me that the higher consciousness, the dialogue I get, it tends to be very abrupt, and it's of the opinion, why are you wasting my time? That the client knows the answers to this,
Right.
And in different people, it's got the same attitude.
That's the, and I actually make a distinction between the subconscious and the higher self. Yeah. The subconscious, when I call in this just the pure subconscious, that's exactly, I'll get the same attitude. I go and they'll say that their person is being silly or being hard-headed. They're silly, they're hard-headed. They know this already. They're wasting your time, right? Like the subconscious will say that. If I call in the higher self, the higher self tends to, so I could call in the higher self. The higher self is nicer. It's more angelic. Always has a smile on its face. It has this glowing countenance. You can kind of see auras. If you call in the collective unconsciousness, then they say we instead of I, right? And then you get this like universal truths that comes through.
Maybe you're better at it than I am.
I'm not better. I think I'm just I've just experimented with it so much that I could show you how to do that. It's not hard at all to make the distinction. You just call in who you want to talk to, but after you do it for so long, you kind of know who's coming through. You kind of know who you're talking to. I mostly work with the subconscious, the part that is, making fun of the client. But if I have to call in the higher self, there are reasons why I would need to call in the higher self.
Hi, James.
I'll do that.
Hey,
James
just joined
from Scotland. Welcome. And thank you everybody who has stuck with us for so long, or if you've come in and out, or if you're watching this on the replay, you've been with us this long. Thanks for joining us. I'll try to get to some of your comments in a few minutes. But we're just having a fascinating conversation, talking about sort of what we do, the type of hypnosis we do.
We didn't really finish talking about that, but that's okay.
We could jump back there. We could, this is not a formal interview. It's just, like I said, it's just chatting between colleagues, and we have Keithanthony and I have just recently gotten to know each other over the past few weeks.
And James introduced us, wasn't it? I think. Yes.
Was it James introduced us?
James told me I should interview you on my show. And
thank you,
It's gone the other way around a bit, I think.
Well, I'm happy to come on your show anytime. Okay. Yeah. So all right, let's jump back a minute back to your NDE, because I'm not sure if we finished talking about that, and we'll finish up with that, and then we can go on more. Then we go back to the hypnosis. So what happened after? So you did the life review, anything, and then you got this profound experience there. Then what happens after that? Do you remember?
Well, I had the life review, which was interesting, and there was, when I was in that room, shall we call it, there were 3 entities in there with white robes on, and I can't remember that they showed me their faces at all, and I think perhaps they didn't need to show me their faces, because everything up there was happening telepathically. So I think perhaps there was no need for them to show me their faces, because everything was telepathic, and it was quite strange. And there was one point in there where they showed me this big wooden door, and they were encouraging me to go through this door. And I said, what's through the door? And they said, well, you just walk through it and you find out. And I'm an analytical kind of a person, because my engineering background, and I said, well, I need to know what's through there before I go through there. And they said, well, you just walk through, and you find out. And I said, but forgive me, this is a weird setup you got here. I don't know who you are, and the life review was pretty far out. And with respect, I'm not going to go through that door. It could be a bottomless pit. It could be.
You thought you might be getting tricked into going through the door.
Yes, it could be Armageddon. It could be limbo, and I'm not going to go through that door. And they said, but everybody goes through that door. It's the way it is. Everybody's always, since the beginning of time.
Dawn of time. Everybody's gone.
And I said, well,
and you're like, well, I'm going to be a rebel.
There is no beginning of time because this is infinity here.
That's right.
There is no beginning or end. So I was arguing with these infinitely powerful beings, and so as I sit here, I have no idea what happened. Because I was arguing with these. I was just a fly to them, but I don't know what happened because all I can tell you is I was arguing with them, and I don't know what happened next because there is no timeline, as I was saying.
And did
time
you
is a construct.
And when you were in heaven, did you see, was it like fields and rainbows and ponies and unicorns, or or what was heaven like to you and your experience?
I know that I met this person we called Jesus.
Yes.
And I met God, this person we call God, the creator.
When you say you met God, did you have a visual of God, or was it a feeling or a telepathic knowing?
It was a telepathic
interaction.
I can't. God is all encompassing. He's bigger than
right. Source everything. And if he's source energy,
he's there. And I remember feeling that if I looked at him, I would cease to exist, and my eyes would burn out. And
fascinating!
It's terrifying. But I remember now that, and it took me many years to realize that eventually I turned and faced God. And this is when I told you earlier on, my mouth would go dry, and it has now.
Would you like to take a sip?
No, it's my tea's cold now.
Oh, okay.
And my lips would quiver. But I turned and faced God, and I merged with God, because if
I just got the chills when you said that.
Because before, we wonder what the Big Bang was, and the Big Bang is nonsense, of course. But before there was anything, there was consciousness. All there was consciousness, and consciousness created all matter. There was only consciousness, and don't ask me what came before consciousness, because this is just a question we can't ask.
Absolutely.
We just
our human brains aren't made to handle that question.
We're not capable of. There's some things we just can't know.
Exactly.
Call it God or consciousness. It's a nonsense question.
But it's a pure, positive, loving energy.
That's it. There is only love. Love is consciousness, and I merged with God, the consciousness, because that is all that there ever was, and we are all that consciousness, that loving energy. And so to say that I merged with that is nonsense, because none of us never
you're already that, but we have the illusion. We have the illusion of separation.
Yes.
And so maybe the illusion or the veil was just torn apart, right? And then you remembered who you really were.
Yes, there was a comment just came on the screen there from, I didn't quite catch the name.
What, David or James?
Before there was consciousness, there was not consciousness.
Let me share that comment. There you go. He said, "Hey, David."
David Fairweather. Before there was consciousness, there was not
consciousness. Oh, before there was consciousness, there was not consciousness. Or was there? Has there always been consciousness?
Well, we'll never know.
We don't know.
It's a not it's a lot to question, isn't it?
And then James also said, let me show his comment. He said, you have to show faith to go through the door. And I guess he's saying you always get one, meaning a faith test. Is that what you mean, James? And good morning, Donna. Okay. So I guess that meant, I guess he was talking about earlier when you were talking about how you didn't want to go through the door.
Well, I don't know whether I did or not now, because I don't know what happened next.
Yeah.
But we're here on this planet being tested and schooled and learning lessons. So maybe I failed and I'll have to come back again after I've died and go through the whole rigmarole again, because we've all been here thousands of times
right
through this process, and maybe I failed.
And it's our choice to be here, though. We're not forced to be here. This is something we choose to do, to come into these bodies and to come to Earth, whether it's just to usually I think we're coming in to help the Earth in some way, or humanity.
Yes.
Right. But and it's also to help grow our souls.
But you asked me, did I see flowers and things like that?
Yeah, I just wondering, because people have different description. When I ask them, their description of heaven is so different, and yet at the same time, there's that presence, that source energy, that pure positive energy is always there. But then the actual visual of heaven is so different to different people.
It is wonderful being up there, but it is pure consciousness.
Yeah. Some people describe, the golden streets that are described in the Bible and the big pearly gates. I've had people describe the huge pearly gates, right? But then other people, there's not the pearly gates. Maybe there's the door or another metaphor.
It's pure consciousness up there. So whatever you think it's going to be, it appears. If you imagine beautiful flowers, then they appear. And when
and it's created in an instant, right?
David Fairweather's saying it's hallucinatory, isn't it? And in many ways it is, because when I was up there, I met all of my family who had died, of course, and they all came to me and wanted to meet me, and that was wonderful. But what surprised me was that I also met family up there who were not dead. Living people were up there as well.
Oh, that really fascinates me.
Because we have a soul, and the soul is immortal. It lives forever and ever. So we shouldn't be surprised then that it's not just dead people up there, it's living people up there, because we have an immortal soul.
And so do you think it's our higher consciousness is in heaven, but it's directing our...
Yes, our higher consciousness is in heaven, and as a part of us comes to be incarnated in the physical body here. So we're down here as well. And whatever I thought while I was up there, it appeared. So if I imagine beautiful streams, then they just manifested. So whatever you want up there just happens. And so
that's cool.
That was wonderful. So it's as beautiful as you want it to be while you're up there, and it's fabulous. But they reached a point while I was up there where I was told that, and I find this quite remarkable, because everybody tells me that they reached a point where they had to come back. They were told, it's not your time, you have to come back. But I was given a choice. I was told, that this is time for you to make a choice. You can stay or you can go back. But I knew I had to come back, because I was in paradise. It was wonderful, and I would love to have stayed.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to come back.
Well, of course they don't. But I was told that I could choose to stay or I could come back. But I didn't feel I could stay in paradise, knowing all the things that I'd been shown I could do when I came back.
Okay.
And I was told if I came back, it wouldn't be easy. It would be hard. So I started off by being paralyzed on a hospital bed in a lot of pain.
Right.
It hasn't been easy. And I've been 40 years, and I'm not trying to give you a sob story, because it has been tough. And I have been sick a lot of the time, and it's been 40 years.
Wow.
I'm still medicated
Well,
after
we're
40
glad you
years.
came back, and you've helped so many people
And
from
I'm
this experience.
grateful that I've been able to help a lot of people on the way, and that's been wonderful. So I have no complaints at all about that. What's this at the end of the classic intellectualist movie? This is the end. Some stoner said, "You can have anything you can imagine." Aren't we scanning experiences on Earth so that we can imagine them and manifest them after? I've not seen that movie. Do
I
you know
haven't
that
seen
one,
that.
Stephanie?
I haven't seen that either.
No.
Either. I've not seen that either. Um, the, this is
But paradise could be so boring, couldn't it?
definitely, and that's kind of why I'm actually kind of happy to discover that we have past lives and future lives, because
Yeah.
infinity, right? What are we going to do with our infinity? Just fly around meadows and fields and picking flowers? Like, what are we going to do for our infinity, right?
I've got friends down here on Earth who are very wealthy, and they go on holidays abroad all the time, and they're really living the high life and doing wonderful things that I can't do because I don't have that much money. And what money I do have, I give away to people, like feeding people in other countries who would otherwise be starving. That's what I do, and I think that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
But if my friends who are very wealthy, who are touring the world and going on holidays all the time, and all that kind of stuff, I don't do that, but it doesn't appeal to me because all that chasing around, getting on airplanes and drinking and going into restaurants and all that kind of stuff, I think to myself, you've got such shallow lives because you're racing around thinking I've got to go and join that queue and get the latest iPhone. I've never had a mobile phone. I don't own one.
Oh.
And if your life balances on whether you have the latest iPhone or not, I think that's so sad.
I just have to have it for business, though. Seriously, you need to get you an iPhone.
But I've never had a smartphone, and I'm still surviving.
Yeah, absolutely, and I totally know what you mean by that too. And what kind of experiences do you want to have on Earth? And so many people out there say that they just want to be rich. They want to be like billionaires, and it's like, okay, well, when you have all the money in the world to do anything you want to do, what are you going to do? Okay, I'm gonna travel, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I take that money that other people are using on their trinkets, and I send it to other countries to feed people who would otherwise be starving.
Which I think
that's a much better thing to do.
I think it's wonderful. And
if everybody did that, the world wouldn't be starving.
Oh, definitely. We have so many resources and so much money. This world is so wealthy. There really should be no reason why anybody is starving at all. Let's see, but anyways, but then I say, okay, you have $1 billion, whatever, all the money you want in the world. And now what are you going to do? Okay, I would travel. Great. Now you traveled, you've been to all the countries you wanted to go to. You've eaten at all the restaurants. Now what are you going to do with your life? Now what? Now I would just think that after a while, that would just be so boring and so shallow. And I think, and even when, before I became a hypnotist, a hypnotherapist, I worked in a corporate office and I had a corporate career and I was making a lot of money. But I remember having this feeling of, but there's more and I need to be doing more. And I had that feeling that I'm supposed to be helping other people in some way. I didn't know at the time what capacity, but I knew it wasn't just taking their money. And I felt like I needed to be helping in some way. And so once I became a hypnotherapist and I really started helping people and they really started feeling better and they were making these dramatic improvements in their life. And I was there to help assist with that. Now I have this wonderful feeling and I have the fulfillment that I was seeking. Right. Mm-hmm. Which I think is, and I guess we're all here for different reasons too. And if you think about past, and if you believe in past lives, and I know a lot of you who are watching us that you think this is all hokey and nonsense, and and that's okay too. We all have our own beliefs, but for those who believe in past lives, we come back. If we haven't learned the lesson in the past life, then maybe we come back to learn it again, and that's what karma is all about, because we're learning lessons, we're growing our souls, right? It's going somewhere else with that. Where was I going with that? Hang on, let me show James Harley's comment, and then I'll think of where I was going with that. So James says, Keith, you have to move with the times, my friend.
He thinks I shouldn't feed poor people.
No, he thinks you should get an iPhone.
I don't need one.
But you can right, you can get an iPhone and still feed poor people, maybe even feed poor people even more efficiently with
how much
better
does an iPhone cost?
So I don't know how much it would cost in the UK.
Hundreds of pounds. I can feed a lot of people with that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it costs hundreds of pounds. I don't know pound to dollar conversion, but yeah, so it's your personal choice. And I have the view that with my phone, I like it because it's like having a little computer in my pocket. It's not because for vanity reasons, but it's really because I can do a lot of business on my phone when I'm away from my desk. And I do a lot of business away from my desk, and I can schedule appointments on my phone, and I can do Facebook updates on my phone or Facebook Lives or whatever. So that's the reason why I have one. But I can totally, get the reason why, if you can't justify it in your mind to have it because you think that you could be doing something better with that money, I get that too. But I also can see how you could, if you had a little computer in your pocket, you could even, expand that more to be able to share your story with more people and help people on a bigger scale. But that's just a different perspective that we have of looking at things.
Yes.
This is where I was going with this. So, and I think that people do come in with a pre-birth agreement for those who believe in past lives. And when you come into you do come in with a pre-birth agreement that you're going to come in born to these certain parents in this certain region to learn a particular lesson. Do you believe in something like that or not?
Pre-birth agreements.
Mm-hmm. Like you choose your parents and you kind of choose what karmic lesson you want to learn.
I don't know, but I've just looked up iPhone and they're selling them for £699.
Well, that's if you don't have a plan. You have to get a plan, and then it's only like $50 a month or something. Yeah, that's outside the plan, but you'll have a plan. It'll work. We can work it out, right? There's really no scarcity in the universe. It's just how we're how we're handling the money and how we're treating our fellow humans.
Yeah, but I don't need an iPhone because I've got a landline, and guess how many times it's rung this week?
My landline never rings, so I don't know.
well, my landline hasn't rung this week, so I don't see why I would need an iPhone, because I work on the basis that if my landline isn't ringing, my iPhone isn't ringing either.
Oh, right. So that's because you're thinking of your iPhone as a phone instead of a computer in your pocket. So I think of my iPhone as a computer in my pocket, so I can do work, I can do business wherever I am. Yeah. But anyway, let's move on from this because we get it. Let's talk about something fun. Then what happened after? So what happened after? Did you come back? When you came back into your body, did you remember coming back into your body, or did something else happen before you re-entered?
The first thing I can remember, other than being in that place we call heaven, is a period when it was very weird, because it was as if, the best I can describe is as if I was floating, if you will, inside a giant grey-white table tennis ball.
Interesting.
And my lights, well, the lights were out. They were there were I had no thoughts. I could hear nothing. There was nothing going on. The lights were literally out. I was out to lunch, you might say. It was like I was in a waiting room. I was just waiting.
Did you have a conscious knowing that you were back?
No, I was in limbo,
Okay.
just nothing happening. It was like I was waiting, and I didn't know what I was waiting for. I was just laying there, not aware of anything, just constant silence, just nothing happening. And I was, it's hard to describe. I would like to say that I was conscious, but not conscious of what I was conscious of.
Mm-hmm.
It was just an endless waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could almost imagine listening to the ticking of a clock, and there was nothing else, but I didn't have to tick. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah. Without having to experience
an endless ticking silence. Imagine a silent tick.
Mm. So it felt like maybe even an infinite amount of time, just lying there, and yeah.
And I was like that, and I don't know how long I was like that, but it was like I was as if I was aware. I was trying to find some sense of where I was.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to describe.
And so then when you came back into a sense of where you were, that's when you found yourself in the hospital bed, and they told you were paralyzed. And is that when you felt like you were molded to the bed?
I was I was just laying there, and I didn't know that I was laying there looking up at the ceiling.
Oh, you were looking at, okay. You weren't aware that you were laying. And is that why you had the image of being inside like a table tennis ball, because you were looking at this white ceiling, or was that for something else?
No, I was literally blankly staring, and everything was uniform, just white or grey.
Okay.
And I was not aware of any sound or anything.
Okay.
And it was very weird. But and that went on for a long time. I don't know how long.
Yeah.
And I was just in limbo.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day something changed, because I was just looking up at the ceiling. I didn't know I was looking at the ceiling. I was just looking into this blank nothingness.
Okay.
And then one day I became awareness that I got this sense that something changed, because this tiny black spot appeared in my vision, moving across my vision.
A tiny black spot?
Tiny black spot.
Was moving in your vision. Okay.
And just moving across my vision. And then things suddenly began to wake up. And it was actually a spider that had walked across what was the ceiling. And it just drew my attention. So I must have had my eyes open, or I wouldn't have seen it.
Uh-huh.
And and I didn't know it was a spider, but it drew my attention. It's just gone across my vision. And my mind replayed that as a video, as a movie. This black spider just walking across my vision, across the ceiling.
So that little spider came in and woke you up.
Yes, and I just replayed that in my vision again and again and again. And I don't know how long I did that for, but I just kept replaying that spider. And over time, I began to pull in the fact that little black spot had little black legs. And
cool.
So that came into my mind. And over time, I then began to bring into my cognition that there are little specks of dirt on that ceiling. And then I began to notice that there were there were lines on the ceiling as well, because there were tiles on that ceiling, and and my mind gradually began to be able to process all of this stuff. My mouth has gone dry again now, and my lips quivering.
Oh.
And
So this was a pivotal moment for you. I can imagine.
My mind began to make connections again, and that started to, my mind started to kick back in. And then the really freaky thing that started to happen was that I started to see that there were people around me, and I didn't know what they were. It was like they were aliens, because I mean, didn't even know what aliens were. But
right.
But all this stuff around me started to come in, and I didn't know. I didn't.
You had to make sense of all of that again.
I had no idea what any of it was, because it was really. Can I say shit? Really weird shit.
You can on my show.
It was really weird shit, and it started to. My mind started to remake connections, because I'd had a really major head injury, and my brain was like soup. And the fact that I'm talking to you at all is a miracle. And although I do talk,
well, I'm so glad you are. So glad you're here with us today.
Although I do talk very well, and I look okay, don't I?
You do, yeah.
What's going on? We call it bonnet in England. You call it under the hood.
Under the hood.
Yeah. What's going on under the hood here is my motors on overdrive, because my head is racing just to talk. I have to really think clearly. You'll notice it if I'm ever in a pub with you. You'll notice that I shut down and I don't interact in the pubs, because when there's more than one person talking at once, I can't decipher what anybody's saying.
I got you.
I can only interact when there's one person talking, because I can decipher what you're saying, because there's only you.
I have trouble with that myself. Even I haven't had a brain injury, but I have trouble too deciphering. If there's a lot of people, talking at one time. But I also think that I may have a mild form of autism. So my son
problems you had when you were being born. Yes. So you know what I'm talking about. Yes. And
yeah, absolutely. It's
not easy, is it? Because I go to pieces in social environments. I don't, which is why I don't have a circle of friends, because in social environments, I'm lost.
Right. Yeah. And that's a learned skill.
Yeah. And I can't cope in social environments. So I don't do social venues. I've got to go to one tomorrow evening, and I'm not looking forward to it at all.
No.
Because I'm just going to be standing there looking like I'm a dummy, and I'll look like I'll stand out like a sore thumb.
Well, maybe go over and find one interesting person who looks like they're standing alone by themselves and strike up a conversation, and then
no, I won't be able to, because of all the background noise. I won't be able to decipher what that one person is saying because of all the background noise.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the noise that's the problem.
The noise, okay.
Which is the same reason I don't like to go into places like shopping centres, because all the noise in the background gives me overload, and I can have a seizure.
Oh goodness. Okay.
So I have to be very careful when I'm out and about, just with traffic around me. That can be very dangerous for me.
So even 40 years later, your brain is still having to adjust to social environments.
Yes, it's a problem. I'm fine like this. And if you put me on a stage, assuming the audience aren't being too rowdy, I'll be very happy to talk to an audience.
Yeah, sure. And Donna has a comment for us. And Donna says, my understanding is that we have family soul groups that we interact with, taking on different roles while learning lessons and expanding our souls, and also helping ourselves and others. That's my understanding too, Donna. What's your take on this, Keithanthony?
I'm just seeing if I understand the comment. My understanding is we have family soul groups, and we interact with taking on different roles while learning lessons and expanding our souls, and also helping other souls and others. Yes, and there was a comment there about noise cancelling headphones.
Do noise canceling headphones help you or have you tried those out in public using the noise canceling headphones?
Well, if you're wearing headphones, you can't hear what people are saying, then can you?
Right, which still, I guess, defeats the purpose still.
Yes.
Got it. So it's hard for you just to distinguish a particular voice out of the crowd of voices.
Yes, and that's right. As I have to be able to decode what people are saying, and I use lip cues as well. I have to watch what people, because you don't know I'm doing it, but I'm actually watching your lips right now to help me decipher what you're saying. Although I'm not a lip reader per se, but
that's so funny. I do the same thing, Keithanthony, because I'm a visual learner, and I'm an emotional learner, and then a visual learner, and then the last is audio. So I'm reading people's lips and understanding their lips before I understand what was said. Even if I'm listening to a song, I can, like a song I've never heard before. I don't know what the lyrics are. Yes. I feel the song first. And then after a long time, I'll pick up on the words. I was like, oh, wait, I've heard this song 50 times. That's what they were saying the whole time. So I'm the same way, whereas I don't
listen to music because it's just a cacophony. I don't know what it's all about. If I do listen to music, then I have to look at the lyrics to know what they are.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I kind of know what you mean there, because I'm a little bit like that myself. All right.
So you went to full term, did you, when you were born?
I went to full term. They actually took me 2 weeks prior to my due date. So I was born December 30th. I was supposed to be born on today, January 10th. In fact, this is my older sister's birthday today, and if you're watching, Angela, happy birthday. But she was born in January and I was born in December, and of the same year, 1975, and they call us slow twins. But she's still older than me, so ha ha ha.
I delivered a baby back in, was it 1984, I think it was, and in the street.
Really?
That was a hypnobirth because she didn't feel a thing, and that was pretty cool.
And did you help talk her through that and gave her the suggestions that she wouldn't feel the pain?
It was very easy. I just did it. I did it purely conversationally. I did a negotiation with her. I said to her that because I knew she was in trance already because she was in pain. She was panicky because I saw her leaning against the shop window, and I said, "Are you okay?" As I thought she was having a heart attack because I'd done a resus course the week before. I thought, "Here we go." And I said, "You okay?" She said, she said, I'm in labor. I said, "Are you sure?" She said, "Yes, my water's broke on the bus that I just got off."
Oh, wow.
So I took her into the wash-in laundrette, which was on Streatham High Road in South London. And she had her children with her who are like banshees going crazy, kept wanting to run into the road, so I had to keep running up to grab them and drag them back in. And so I did a negotiation with her. I said, "Look, you're okay. Just relax because you're in good hands because you've got 3 experts here." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, look, you've got that baby. Babies have been doing this for millions of years.
That's right.
Do this on their own.
You can ask the baby to help you have an efficient and safe birth."
And I said, "You're an expert because you've had 3 children before. You know how to do this, don't you?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "I'm an expert because I've delivered babies before, and I'm also a hypnotherapist. And so this is going to be painless for you because you love that baby, don't you? You don't want that baby's first experience to be one of all that stress that you're going through right now, do you? You don't want to transfer that to the baby, do you? So you're going to be having this painlessly." I said, "Is that okay with you?" And she said, "Yes."
I love that. That's awesome.
And that was the sum total of my hypnosis. And so on that basis, she had
which is powerful suggestions that you gave her there. And during the time when she was very, emotional. So I'm sure.
And before that, she was in a lot of pain
well.
in every position she had. And I don't know how I knew this, but I got her kneeling before that. And that eased the pain when she was kneeling. But eventually I got her laying down for the delivery. And the hardest thing I had was persuading her to take her underwear off for the delivery. She was a bit nervous about me taking her underwear off.
I can imagine that, and being in public, I could imagine that. So, but getting back real quick we're going to jump back to the aliens real quick. So what I was saying before was that I was reading one of Dolores Cannon. Aliens.
Okay.
I had read one of Dolores Cannon's book. I think it was The Keepers of the Garden. And it had talked about star beings and whatnot that are helping us. But also something that I found fascinating is that they said humans will never be able to space travel intergalactically as long as we hold on to the construct of time. Because time doesn't exist, and as long as we hold the belief that time is real, we'll never intergalactically travel.
Yes. Well, I think we are intergalactically traveling, and it's just that the military aren't letting us know about it. We've been doing it for a long, long time.
Oh, do you think so?
Because Nikola Tesla showed us how to do it a long time ago.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, we should have the ability to do it. I'm sure somebody knows something somewhere. But
Nikola Tesla gave us anti-gravity devices long time ago, because we were using them before the Second World War. The Germans had that cornered.
Yeah, that's so fascinating to me. I'm going to show this comment real quick. Going back to James wanted to know if classical music. Do you hear classical music okay?
Is that a question to me or to you?
That was a question to you. When we're jumping back in the conversation, then we'll come back forward. But he wanted to know if you can hear classical music okay.
I can hear music okay. I have trouble deciphering the lyrics.
The lyrics, right? Exactly. Back to the lyrics and. Okay, so jumping forward now, back to the anti-gravity and space travel and all of that. I told you guys, I promised you that this would be woo-woo, and this is we've totally got into the woo-woo part of this. As a matter of fact, your Facebook group. Tell the people watching us what the name of your Facebook group is.
The name of my Facebook group, if anybody wants to join it, is Hypnosis, NLP, Stage Therapy, and Woo Woo.
So that's Hypnosis, NLP, Stage Therapy, and Woo Woo, which is I think is awesome. I think that's an awesome name.
if you won't find it, you'll probably find it very easily just by typing Hypnosis and Woo Woo. That will probably find my group, because there are not many hypnosis groups that have got Hypnosis and Woo Woo in the title.
And this is really why I wanted to talk to you today, because you're into woo-woo, and most people who I interview, it's all strictly hypnosis and technique and blah blah blah. And I think I love talking woo-woo stuff. I think it's fun. I think it's definitely something that expands the mind, whether you believe in it or not. It definitely challenges you to look at things in a different perspective.
Yes, I just did a check. If you do type hypnosis and woo-woo together, it brings up my group and no other.
Awesome. Cool. So, but what about intergalactic space travel, like through wormholes and stuff like that? Do you think we're doing that kind of traveling?
I think that we are.
And I don't mean spiritually. I mean even like physically, because I think we space travel all the time in spirit. And when
I know that we have a black budget that has financed a US space fleet, and I think that the Russians and the Chinese have got one as well, because I've listened to lectures by that's great. Donna's into
Donna
woo-woo.
says she's totally into woo-woo. Woo-woo!
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's good. You should
Welcome
join
to
my
the
group
club.
then.
Yeah, join the group, Donna. I just find it fascinating whether this stuff is real, whether it's not real. It's highly entertaining, and it stretches my mind and my imagination.
Yes.
And I'm not going to rule it out.
The American military has got a black budget space fleet already, and they've been using it a lot in the California fires.
Oh, have they?
With scalar weapons, and you can see the evidence of that, because if you look at all the fires, you'll see that a lot of the buildings have been burnt to the ground, and even ask any fireman, granite countertops do not evaporate. They survive any fire because it takes a lot of heat to make granite countertops vanish.
Right.
Because in those fires, the buildings are leveled to the ground, and there are no remains. There are no steel. There's no steel or iron.
Or brick.
There are no granite tops. The chimney breasts are gone. They are leveled to the ground. And yet, all around the buildings, the trees remain. That is extraordinary. That can only be done with a scalar weapon. And
what are you saying? A scalar weapon?
Scalar weapon.
What is that?
It's an energy weapon. It's a weapon that is. I can't explain the technical terms for it, but it's a directed energy weapon. DEW, directed energy weapon.
Okay, so you can put the energy. Is it like a laser or something like that, or
it's not a laser, but it is a directed energy weapon.
Okay.
Not unlike the one that was used to bring down the World Trade Center. That you can see in the video of the World Trade Center that 500,000 tons of material collapsed, but there was no pile of rubble at the bottom. So Dr. Judy Woods, world famous scientist, wrote a book, Where Did the Towers Go? Because those World Trade Center towers came down, leaving no pile of rubble below. That's a fact, because the firemen who were underneath the towers when they came down said goodbye to each other because they could hear them coming down. The next thing they knew, they were looking up at the sunshine, which I think you'll agree would not be possible with 500,000 tons of towers collapsing above you.
Interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. Everything that happened around 9/11 is a mystery to me.
We're getting a bit off the track of hypnosis here, I think, aren't we? Talking about scalar weapons.
I told you we would, but we can always go back to talking about hypnosis if you'd like. I'm going to take us to the end of the hour, though, so we've got at least a good quarter of an hour left to go. But Donna wants to know, and so do I, is this vibrational energy?
It's magnetic energy. I would suppose to get the closest description. Magnetic energy.
Okay.
Or gravitational wave energy, perhaps. I'm not an expert on scalar waves. It's a bit beyond my level of electronic engineering.
Well, let's go back to hypnosis since you brought that up, and because now I know that we're doing pretty much the same thing. What got you into doing the deep trance hypnosis, which I call profound somnambulism, when you can get the voice of the subconscious, the higher self? How did you fall into that?
What people asked me to do Dolores Cannon sessions, and I thought, so I said yes, of course. So after I booked the session,
they're saying that you wanted to do sessions like her.
I went on to YouTube to look up Dolores Cannon to find out what it was, and I just watched a couple of the videos, and well, that looks straightforward enough.
Oh, interesting. So you watched some YouTube videos, and
well, I watched. I said yes, I'll do that for you, and then I went in to find out who Dolores Cannon was. I thought, well, it's only hypnosis; it can't be that hard, can it? And so then I was fully equipped. I thought, and I thought she was doing it in a roundabout way. And
that's so funny. We had the same exact thoughts.
I thought I can do that. I thought I can do better than Dolores Cannon.
Right.
And I knew a friend of mine. I'd heard of Dolores Cannon, but I didn't know how she did it. And but it's not difficult, is it? It's only hypnosis. People make these things very difficult. I thought, here am I straightening spines with S-bends in them. I thought, if I can do that, I can do Dolores Cannon.
Right. Absolutely. So that's fascinating to me that you found some YouTube videos and just watched some YouTube videos and you were able to figure out.
Well, she didn't tell me how she did it, but she was telling me what she was doing. I thought,
okay.
that's just hypnosis she's doing, just nothing. Because what these hypnotists do, they make out they're doing something that's some very special branch of hypnosis, but it's not. I mean, hypnosis is just hypnosis.
It's all hypnosis.
Special.
Right.
And I thought I thought if I can come out of my coma when I was I was diagnosed a cabbage when I was in that coma, and I came out of that coma paralyzed. I overcame that paralysis. Then I walked across the ward, and I got a patient in the hospital who couldn't walk, and they couldn't make him walk. And I sat down with him for half an hour, and then he walked the length of the wall with me. I thought, if I can do that, I can do Dolores Cannon.
You woke up with special powers.
Well,
you brought that with.
People who've had near-death experiences do have that. A lot of people who've had near-death experiences do wake up changed. We do have special powers.
Yeah,
and because you've had your experience, Stephanie, I would not bat an eyelid if you told me you've got special powers, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if you have. Do you have some special powers?
I have some special powers. If you want to call them powers, I think it's something that everybody does have, and can develop.
Took the next words right off my lips, because we just don't realize that we all have special powers. And people like the Vatican, they do everything they can to cover that up. They don't want us to know that we are specially gifted as human beings. And they do everything they can to cover it up and peddle fear. They use church and the Bible to imbue fear. Thank you, James, for that comment that I'm an amazing hypnotist. And that's a fact, because James said so. But the church and the Bible use fear-mongering to prevent us using.
And not just the Vatican or the Catholic Church, but I would say a lot of Christian denominations do use fear, which I think is that's a whole nother show.
They tell us that only Jesus can do healing. It's nonsense. Anybody can do healing. They tell us that only Jesus can bring the dead back to life, and that's nonsense, because I brought the dead back to life, and it scared the bejesus out of me when it worked, because I wasn't expecting it to, but it did, and it scared me.
Well, now you have to tell me about that. You can't just like throw out that morsel and not tell us about it. How did you bring somebody back to life? What happened?
Well, I saw somebody get hit by a car, and he went over the roof of the car and landed on his head. And I saw him twist his neck, so I thought he'd probably broken his neck. And he was laying in the road, and I stopped to give him first aid, because I was ambulance crew at the time, but I was off duty, nowhere near an ambulance. Didn't have any first aid with me, and I laid down beside him to give him first aid, and I had traffic, because he was in the road. I had traffic going over my ankles. I thought that I'm going to get myself run over any moment, and he was dead, totally kaput.
But he had no pulse.
He had no pulse.
Breathing.
He was not breathing.
Okay.
He was absolutely dead. His name was John.
Okay.
Because his friends told me.
Like, did you check for his pulse, or how did you know that he was dead?
I checked in his neck and his carotid and in his wrist.
Okay.
And he was definitely dead. He was going no place. And I didn't want to give him CPR, because I'd seen the way he landed on his neck. And if I had saved him, then he might possibly have been a paraplegic. I didn't think he thanked me for that. And it was rush hour. We were a long way from the hospital. And you know that in the movies, when you do CPR and people burst back into life, that doesn't happen. It's nonsense. So I thought that his chances were going to be pretty slim, because if you do CPR, all you're doing is keeping the brain alive until help can arrive with a heart start pack and adrenaline. And so and I wanted this man to live. And so I was there with him, and because I've had a near-death experience, I know that he can still, and because I'm a hypnotist, well, I know that he can still hear me. So I talked to him, and I told him to listen only to me, and don't listen. And I gave him the same speech I got when I was going through the tunnel. I said, listen only to me, don't listen to anybody else, don't be distracted. And I said, listen only to me and come towards my voice. And I was hoping that might get him to come back. And I'm thinking that heart's going to start again. And this is craziness, because, this kind of thing doesn't really happen. Because the chance of saving somebody with CPR, it doesn't happen. And I had one hand on his chest and one hand on his forehead while I was leaning down, talking into his ear, telling him to come towards me. And it wasn't happening. And I really felt empathy for this man, because I didn't want him to die. And I wasn't a Christian. I didn't go to church. And although I met Jesus, I hadn't been to church or anything like that. And then I felt this strange force coming over me, like a glove coming over my entire body. And I found these words being squeezed out of my throat, saying, Jesus, take me. My mouth has gone dry again now. And then I felt this electricity go along my arms, and his body jolted, and his body lifted off the ground and then dropped to the floor, which is exactly what I didn't want to do to him, because I knew that his neck might be broken.
Wait a minute. Let me pause you for a second. So
Sure.
You said you thought the words, or you said the words.
No,
Jesus.
I said the words.
All right, but first you thought the words, and then you said.
No, I didn't think the words.
Oh, you didn't think them? They just came through you?
Force came over me and forced these words out of me.
Oh, okay. So, like, as in an entity came up through you and talked through you? Okay. Yes. And what did it say again?
And it said, Jesus, take me.
Jesus, take me.
Yeah, it was like I was saying to Jesus, take my body.
So, okay. Like, Jesus, take over. Take me. Yes. Okay, got it. And then you felt
electricity went through my arms. So, like, his body lifted off the ground and lifted. And I'm thinking, what's going on? And his body lifted off the ground and dropped to the ground, and his eyes opened, and he burst back into life, and he started chattering. Wow. And I thought, and it really scared me.
That's amazing.
Because I thought then that I was going to die.
Right.
I said,
you thought you were going to die?
I thought I'd exchanged my life for his.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was scared, I tell you.
It's so fascinating.
Mm-hmm. But there'll be people listening who will be thinking, no, he wasn't really dead.
Well,
And I wouldn't blame you for thinking that.
I believe you if that's what you felt. I mean, you checked his pulse.
But I was ambulance crew at the time, and trust me, he was dead. And I felt the electricity go through my body. And I was not speaking those words. Something took over. Because I was not the kind of person at that time who would be exchanging my life for someone else.
Did you have the thought, Jesus, take over, or did...
No, the thought I had was that something had taken over my body and was forcing me to say those words.
Oh, it's so fascinating to me. So interesting.
Because I was not at that time. I was feeling pretty stupid for laying down and risking my ankles underneath the wheel arches of buses to help this guy.
Okay.
I was thinking, why am I doing this? I could get killed here.
Because you were supposed to be there at that time helping that guy. I think.
I was just feeling stupid.
Okay.
Because I was risking getting myself run over.
Well, Keithanthony, thank you so much for sharing your story with me. You're such a fascinating person, and I really love that you spent these past 2 hours with me. Really appreciate that. Please come back again, and I'd love to have you on again. And just, I could just talk to you all day and all night. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to end this soon.
You can't stand me anymore. I understand. I've had it
no.
so many times.
I could talk about this I eat this stuff up with a spoon. I could talk about this all night and into the morning. But thank you so. I don't know. It's probably late. Well, what time is it over there for you? Is it late?
7.
5 to 7. Okay, so you probably need to eat.
Thank you, Mark Paris.
But I do want to say that if you want to learn what Keithanthony and I know, how to talk to the subconscious, to the pure subconscious, and the higher self and the collective unconsciousness, I do teach a course called Profound Somnambulism, and you can learn more about that. On my Facebook group, it's called Profound Somnambulism and Beyond. Just request to join. If you're a seasoned hypnotist or a clinical hypnotherapist, then I'll let you in. And thank you guys for showing up. Thank you for all of your comments. If you enjoyed this, just put a smiley face or a heart in the comments or a number 1, and I'll keep doing these shows for you and having amazing guests on, such as Keithanthony. And let me find my paper. Ew, where'd my paper go? Oh, here we go. And before I leave, everybody gets a big, oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's my thank you for coming. Oh yeah, you're awesome. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. And James is asking me to come on to the Keith Internet show. Well, that's up to Keithanthony. So
yeah, I'll have you on the show, please. That would be wonderful.
I would be honored. I would be honored. Thank you so much. All right, and thank you guys. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you, Stephanie.
And bye. See you later. If I can end this broadcast, I will.